Welcome to the Great American Collectibles Show, heard Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern on PSA.com and the PSA Facebook page. The Great American Collectibles Show is brought to you by PSA and the National Sports Collectors Convention. Tonight's headlines are brought to you by Sports Collectors Daily. For all of your hobby news, features, and more, visit sportscollectorsdaily.com. And now, your hosts, Tom Zappala and Rico Petrocelli.
Mr. P, how are you today?
Hey, good. Tom, how have you been?
Good. Heading back. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the studio the week after next. Be good.
Yeah,
good to see you
it's been nice to stay here, but time to go home.
Yeah, I'm ready to go home too. We're ready.
Too.
Welcome to the Great American Collectibles Show. Tom Zappala with Red Sox Hall of Famer Rico Petrocelli. Before we have a great show today. We've got our good friend James Fiorentino, the renowned artist, coming on shortly, followed by our guest host, who is just a great guy, Mike Heffner from Lelands Auctions. And then later on in the show, we're going to bring a third man in. Brian Drent's going to be joining Mike and Rico and myself. We'll just talk about the hobby. Actually, Brian's got some cool stuff going on too. But first, our headline. Breakup of the PSA Set Registry Hall of Fame 1968 top set with 572 PSA 10s is highlighting the Mile High Card Company auction. One of the hobby's most perfect 1968 top set is about to hit the auction block. Whether it stays intact or is sold in pieces is up to bidders. Mile High Card Company will kick off its next catalog sale by offering the set both as single lots or individually. Whichever total brings the most money to the consignor is how the set will change. In all, 572 of the 598 cards in the set have been graded Gem Mint 10 by PSA, including the number 280 Mickey Mantle, 247 Johnny Bench rookie card. The set carries a 9.94 GPA and a 10.90 set rating. It's an incredible set that has earned a PSA Set Registry Hall of Fame rating, but it's just the start of a truly incredible event, says Mile High Card Company's CEO and president, Brian Drent, and he will be joining us a little later on. For more information, you can go to sportscollectorsdaily.com. Sports Collectors Daily, our good friend Rich Miller and the staff there, they do a great job. All right, let's bring in our first guest, our good friend, James Fiorentino, who has a really cool event that's going to be taking place May 5th through July 8th at Studio 7 Fine Art Gallery in Bernardsville, New Jersey. Hey, James.
Hey, guys. How are you?
James, how you doing?
Tell us all about it, man. This is a big one.
Yeah, this is exciting. I've been with this gallery for many years. It's a beautiful gallery in Burnsville, New Jersey. Beautiful part of New Jersey. So it's a great opportunity for collectors to come out from the tri-state area, whether you're coming from New York, Pennsylvania, Connecticut. You're able to get to this gallery, which has incredible artists. This particular show is probably the biggest show I've ever had there. I think it's going to be in 3 to 4 rooms.
Wow.
It's going to showcase, highlighting mainly my new Elite project I've been working on for the last 2 years. And they're larger paintings. They're 22 by 30 original watercolor. So when they're framed, they're pretty large. So it'll be, most of those will be there, including some of the There's Only One paintings to showcase, which truthfully, there's not even really many left, but may showcase some of the pieces that are in people's collection. Some other sort of vintage pieces that I've done over the years. And then, people who come in who obviously know me from my sports work, get to see some of my landscape, portrait, and wildlife artwork, which is in many museums and galleries around the country all the time.
Very, very, very.
Look at the one. Look at the paintings behind you. It's.
That bench.
They're beautiful.
It really
Johnny,
is.
that's Johnny Bench, catcher.
Yeah, so that's
Johnny Bench. Wow.
The elites are really cool. Basically, it's sort of what I've been doing for the last 30 years, but it's painting the most legendary players in all sports, painting them at that larger size, and they're all autographed originals. So, the bench was signed and I've met him many times, but got to see him recently at the Philly show a few weeks back. And that's what the set's all about. It's got all these great players from Mike Trout, from current players like that, to Bobby Hull and Steph Curry and Mike Tyson, Mean Joe Green, Bradshaw, all different sports, all different legends. But I think the key is that they're autographed as well, which, makes it for that combination of something that's, high end in the hobby, but also a fine piece of art.
James, do you have you must have an audience for nature and wildlife paintings. Is there a segment of your work that people love? Regarding nature and wildlife?
Yeah. For me, I've always considered myself, like I've probably said on the show before, a watercolor artist, a painter, an illustrator. Just happened to become very famous over the years with my sports art. But my landscapes in recent years have really been showcased pretty well in some national books and magazines. But the wildlife work, whether it's North American animals to even African, but, collectors from all over the country buy that work because I'm very lucky where they go into shows with Artists for Conservation, Society of Animal Arts, and they travel to these great museums, some of which can be in England. And so you start to bring in this audience. There's also a great crossover of a lot of collectors of mine who happen to collect sports, who also love nature and will collect that work as well.
Fishing, a lot of the athletes, I know in baseball, at least in the past, golf and fishing, they like. So all of that stuff is great. But it's amazing the stuff you've done. And
Rico, you had a question for him regarding paint.
I
want to hear it. I want to hear the.
All right, let me say it because I watch. There's a guy on here. We're in Florida. I forget one of the small stations, and he does
watercolors.
No, he does painting, but it's of mountains and trees and all that, landscaping, I guess, right? And it's just boggles my mind how you guys mix the paint. How the heck do you get the color by mixing a yellow and a brown? Did you have to go to school for that, or you just kind of learn on your own?
Yeah, certainly for me and for probably most people who are painting, who are professional, I started doing this, like I mentioned, very young and was lucky enough to get private lessons when I was 8. So when you first start, it's almost like when you're learning hitting or the basics of baseball, right? You learn the basics of paint and color and the color wheel and getting them down and mixing. I think the thing for me is the medium I use, which is watercolor, is so unique in the way that I do it. And that's what separates me from guys who, you're seeing guys painting in oils and acrylics. My niche is watercolor. It almost looks like oil or acrylic, but I do think that the mixing of the paints, especially when I'm doing a lot of There's Only One and doing the old vintage cards, and Tom, you could attest to this, you're really trying to get some of those exact colors of those cards back then. And they're specifically, those cards are known for specific colors. And so it's fun to try to get that. And that takes, years and years of practice of because it dries differently on the paper.
Yeah. So we're pretty sure that you don't buy your paints from Hobby Lobby, correct?
No. I'll tell you what, though, if you see my studio, my work, I do use cake form. So it is funny because people think they look like your typical watercolors that a little kid would use. But I use a lot of mix of Winsor Newton German paints and French paints, pretty expensive paints, but even that makes a difference, right? Like the brushes you use, the paint, every color is different for every brand. And just with the experience, you kind of realize how that flows on the paper, right?
That's great.
So what is your website address, James?
So it's jamesfiorentino.com. And you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all that good stuff. I'm constantly promoting all my new works, my events. Again, very excited. Just came off the Philly show. This will be one of the biggest shows at Studio 7. It gives people an opportunity to come in. If they can't come in for the opening, which is Friday, May 5th, that show is there for several months. Sometimes you can make private, meetings with me there. So it's a wonderful show. Like I said, it gives people an opportunity to be also outside of the hobby where they can come into a gallery form and setting, which is really where I like my paintings to be seen the most, quite frankly, and get a chance to meet me as well.
Okay, great. We wish you the best with the event, and hopefully we will see you at the National.
Yeah,
course.
hopefully. Yeah. If not, we'll be seeing you guys in Boston, right?
We're here, brother. Take
Whoa.
care.
Thanks.
James Fiorentino.
Yeah.
Great
What a
job.
talent, boy.
Oh man, I used to be able to paint like that.
Well, I had a son that went to school in Boston for one of the top schools, art. I can't make a straight line. He can paint and everything. It's
All right,
incredible.
let's bring in our guest host.
Yeah.
A friend of the show's been a tremendous supporter of the show, and Rico, this guy. He hates talking about it, but his collection is something that you freaking have to see. And we had the pleasure of seeing. We're going to talk about it. Mike Heffner from Lelands, the CEO and president of Lelands. Michael, how are you, brother?
Good. How are you guys?
Good. Things are well. Michael, you have an amazing auction that ends on the 22nd of April. Can you just give us an overview of it, and then we'll get into some specifics.
I'm really proud of this one, I think, and I'm proud of everybody here for bringing in the material that we have. There's a lot of fresh material, which we seem to get more so than other auction houses because we've been around for 40 years, which is longer than anybody else. So somebody said it to me yesterday. Another dealer said it to me best, I think. He said, boy, there's no problem finding something to bid on in this auction because we have something from everything. There's Babe Ruth items, there are Pele items, there are some racing items, there are football items, there's stuff for everybody. And you don't have to be a gazillionaire to bid either. We have items in there that are worth, that are going to sell for $1 million. We have items in there that are going to sell for $500. So we have something for everybody. So I'd encourage anybody out there who's into cards or memorabilia to take a look at the current auction, which, like you said, ends on April 22nd.
Rick?
I think for collectors that's really important to know that there's all kinds of prices and items, but are there any auctions, or have you had any auctions which is, say, just vintage, or saying just or a particular type of memorabilia, and that's it? You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good question, Rico. Over the years, we've had photograph auctions with just vintage photography in them. We've had stadium auctions with just stadium memorabilia in them. We've had a few, in the last couple of years, we've had a couple auctions that just have modern cards in them. So we do sometimes we do the specialty auctions, but it seems like an auction like this month's auction, the catalog auction, is the one that people like the most because, like I said, there's something for everybody. You don't have to be just into photographs or just into football or just into baseball. There's something in there for everybody and at varying price ranges.
Heff, we know you're a vintage guy. It's in your DNA. Question is, over the last couple of years, I mean, obviously there's been a big influx of what's happened in the modern and ultra modern world. Has it been kind of like a baptism under fire for you to learn about modern and ultra modern yourself? I mean, because honestly, everybody tells me the same thing. The JPs, the Grady's, they said, yeah. I mean, it really took. They had to really dive in and really learn that part of the business. But you have Jordan.
One mistake. Don't listen to Grady. But I think that I haven't fully embraced it because I am a vintage guy and I've been collecting vintage for 40 years. But luckily, we have some very intelligent people here at the office who do embrace it and they do like it. One of them being Jordan, who I know comes on the show sometimes.
He's been such a breath of fresh air for us with educating us.
Yeah, he speaks the language. And, it seems almost like the hobby is sort of divided now, not necessarily in a bad way, but it's sort of, you have a group of collectors who collect modern and a group of collectors who collect vintage. Some of the modern guys collect vintage also, but very rarely do I see it where there's a vintage guy who collects modern. I tried the only way you really learn this stuff, the modern stuff, is by buying and selling it. There's no other way to do it. And that's like I tell most people. They say, how do you get into this hobby? How do you get into this business? And you have to dive in. There's no books you can read. There's no school you go to. You have to dive in. and start buying and selling stuff. And that's when you really gain knowledge of the material.
We are chatting with Mike Heffner from Lelands. Go ahead, Rick.
No, I was going to say, I mean, you got Gehrig, a 1928 Gehrig card, Ruth, guys like that. The vintage, it'll always be alluring, people would love to have that as long as they can afford it.
Yeah, tell us about that 28 exhibit card, that Gehrig card.
Well, we have a couple. This is like the exhibit auction. We have 4 lots of great exhibit cards. We have the partial set. Then we have the Gehrig rookie it's freshly graded. Huge. It's 1925, graded 4.5. To me, it looks better than a 4.5, but the highest grade is a 6. So this card is going to sell for, upwards of $1 million. It really should. And we have the 1928 Gehrig, which is signed, which is a 1/2. Again, the highest graded. And then we have, a Babe Ruth, a really nice Babe Ruth exhibit card. So the Ruth and Gehrig are fresh to the hobby. The unsigned, those are fresh. And as far as I know, that set that someone put together, that one has never been offered as a set before.
Now that's a near complete set, correct?
Near complete, and you could easily complete that set with the Ruth and Gehrig that we have in the auction.
Wow!
So it's only missing those 2 cards.
Very, very, very cool.
Nice. I saw a movie over here. This is weird. The stations in Florida, and they have a baseball movie, of course, with the start of the season. And there was one, St. Louis, Dizzy Dean, a movie about Dizzy Dean. It was bad. It was bad. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was. But guys like him, though, I mean, they make movies about, but people, they're just not as much interest in a guy like Dean, or is there?
I think Dean's still a guy, his name rolls off the tip of your tongue. I mean, people say, when you say Dizzy Dean, there was like a race car driver named Dizzy Dean too. So there are a couple different Dizzy Deans. But if you're in St. Louis, people know who Dizzy Dean is.
True.
If you're in Seattle, Washington, I'm not so sure. Right. But those guys are still, they're great Hall of Famers. There's some great Hall of Famers. The hobby goes well beyond Ruth, Gehrig, and DiMaggio.
Yeah, well, something.
That's right.
Rico, you guys are hitting on a pretty cool topic, Hef. Look at guys like Kiki Kyler or Dizzy Dean or I don't know, even maybe Ted Lyons. That's a little lesser of a player. I don't know. Pick a Bill Dickey. Those players still, as vintage great Hall of Famers, they don't seem to get the love that
Rogers Hornsby.
Say that's perfect example. Yeah. Why aren't they getting the love that they deserve?
It's the cities that they played in, the fact that some of them never played on a World Series team. The same goes for modern day players. If you don't play in New York or, LA, or you don't have a ring, there's not as much respect there. Is it fair? No. But does it happen? Yes. I'm a big collector. I love Hack Wilson. Hack Wilson in the Hall of Fame, the 190 RBI. It's
unbelievable.
He put up some crazy stats, and he was this little guy, 5'6", 5'7", and he was like this little spark plug. So, not a household name, but a Hall of Famer, and a guy who's cool to collect. There are a lot of photos, a lot of cards, a lot of autographs. Not a lot of autographs because he died pretty young, but that's the kind of thing that I think we have a lot of niche collectors and people who collect those type of guys in the hobby.
Ohtani, Ohtani and Trout, both seem look like the Hall of Famers, and they're the big names, and of course Judge. They're the big names. They were always out
in the modern market.
In the modern market, and if Trout and Ohtani were in New York, I think it'd be
that's a good point, Rico.
Yeah,
that's a very good point.
Not that the value of their cards would be less, I don't know, but these are 2 guys that you would say, I would think as a collector, you'd want to get those cards.
Rico, something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think even not taking anything away from Aaron Judge, but put Aaron Judge in California on the Angels. I don't know if it would have. What he did was incredible. It would have stood out anywhere. But, before that, Aaron Judge was not the most collected guy in the world. Now he
Mhm.
is one of the most collected guys in the world.
Sure, absolutely.
All right, we are chatting
Listen
with
him.
Mike Heffner from Lelands. We have a lot to talk about. I want to get into, man, you got a 51 Bowman mantle, you got a 51 Bowman maze. We're going to talk about some of the unbelievable items in this, and then we're going to talk about the hobby as a whole. Hang in there. We'll be right back.
Since 1996, Brian Drent and the staff at Denver's Mile High Card Company have led the charge in the collectibles hobby. Mile High is a full-service dealer specializing in buying and selling cards and offers a competitive consignment program for all collectors. Whether it be their computerized want list service, appraisals, or auction services, Mile High has it all. If you've been searching for a company with a selection of high-grade vintage 1888 to 1970 baseball cards and memorabilia that shares your passion, aim high, Mile High. Go to milehighcardco.com or call 303-840-2784 for more information.
For more than 30 years, Robert Edward Auctions has been the industry leader when it comes to helping you realize the most money for your baseball cards and sports memorabilia. In addition to their unparalleled reputation for honesty and integrity, they reach the largest number of bidders in the business and offer lower sellers' fees, as well as generous cash advances up front on your valuable material. Contact them today at 908-226-9900. That's 908-226-9900 or at robertedwardauction.com.
Are you a collector looking for that rare trading card or autographed ball or photo? If so, then PB Collectibles in Newport is the place for you. PB Collectibles has graded cards, raw cards, complete sets, and wax boxes of the stars of the future, today, and from the past. We also offer a large selection of both vintage and modern cards. So whether you're looking to add to your collection or sell it, visit us at PB Collectibles, 269 Spring Street in Newport, located across from St. Mary's Church. We are your neighborhood card shop and much more.
This is Brian Drent, president of Mile High Card Company. Is your sports card and memorabilia collection properly insured? For easily replaced personal property, homeowners insurance is all most people need. But for prized possessions that you may have spent a lifetime collecting, it doesn't go nearly far enough. Collectibles Insurance Services has been insuring for over 50 years. They offer a full range of protection and a $0 deductible at an affordable rate with no appraisals required. I know because they insure my collection. If you have a minute, go to collectinsure.com and learn more about insuring your personal card or memorabilia collection.
Hi, this is Dan from Memory Lane Auctions, here to remind you that the renowned Memory Lane Collectibles Company has served as a beacon of light to the collecting community for the past several decades. Indeed, folks, it has been our utmost privilege and pleasure to provide the most enthusiastic collectors with an abundance of the finest sports cards and memorabilia for America's most coveted sports personalities via our world-class auctions. Whether you choose either a private sale transaction or the auction route, Memory Lane cordially invites you to reach out to us to maximize the value of your prized possessions. Also, it is not just sales that we pride ourselves on being the best of the rest, because if you are seeking a particular keepsake for your esteemed gathering, we will be relentless in our quest to find that special piece to fulfill your collecting dreams. So no time to wait. Reach out to us today for the purposes of capitalizing on our unparalleled marketing capabilities. Simply pick up the phone and dial 877-606-5263. That's 877-606-LANE, or find us on the World Wide Web at www.memorylaneinc.com. Now is the time for your valued consignment to ultimately become another one of Memory Lane's record-setting prices.
How would you like to own the bat that was used by your favorite player when he hit that towering home run or game-winning base hit? Now look no further than JT Sports, specializing in the sale and authentication of professional game-used bats. As the official authenticators of professional model game-used bats for PSA DNA, JT Sports will guarantee the authenticity of any bat purchased from them. JT Sports also buys and sells game-worn uniforms, gloves, and baseball equipment. The unique quality of the collectible is what JT Sports is all about. Give them a call at 609-487-8003 or check them out at GameUseBats.com.
Commercials, Mike Provenzel.
Tough questions.
Oh, Mike does?
He
He has a good voice.
You got to hear it. It's like
Yeah, his
feel like-
enunciation.
We're back, guys.
I'm sorry.
We are back.
We are
Yeah.
back on deck with Rico Petrocelli. Don't mind me in the audience interrupting your conversation, of course.
Well, it gives them a little idea what goes on.
All right.
Glad we weren't saying anything
something,
controversial.
and we're not even going to edit that because we're having a discussion. But
Thank
anyway,
God for Chris.
it is time for our segment On Deck with Rico, brought to us each week by our good friend Brian Dwyer and the great staff at REA Auctions. Don't forget to get your bid in by going to robertedwardauctions.com. That's Robert Edward Auctions for extraordinary results and extraordinary service. All right, Rico, this week's question.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever asked you this. This was submitted by a gentleman whose name is Paul Loretta. And here's the question. What was the single best game of your career?
Wow.
The single best game of your career. But and I'm going to tell you something. I don't want to hear about the World Series.
Oh, no.
Regular
Sorry.
season.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
we'll talk about the World Series.
All right. No, that's all right. Don't mind. The game against Vita Blue. It was like a World Series. We were in first place in the Eastern Division, and Oakland was first place, and he was just a great young pitcher. And so they made this. It was like a World Series atmosphere at Fenway, and both in first place. And I hit 2 home runs off him.
Off of Blue?
Yeah,
Wow.
one to straightaway center and one to left center, and I saw the ball pretty good off him, but he was just a great athlete and just a tremendous pitcher, and he went on to win MVP, Rookie of the Year, and all that. But that to me it was meaningful. Of course, by the end of the season, we came in third, and Oakland went on to win a World Series. But hey, that game was very, very exciting.
All right, so now a follow-up question, and Heff, jump in here anytime.
No, I don't.
What about how you played in how many? Let me see. You played in 14 World Series games.
Yeah,
14 World Series games. What was your best World Series game?
Well, 67 and Game 6. I hit 2 home runs. I think I put us ahead 1-0. We had to win that to obviously get to the next game, and so I was part of that. And in that series, I think it still stands that me, Reggie Smith, and Yaz all hit home runs back to back to back.
Really?
Yeah, or at least 3 home runs the same inning.
Very cool.
Yeah, and so that was it was thrilling.
I have one question for Rico.
Go ahead.
Sure.
And I don't know if it's been asked before or not, but who's the catcher who talked the most crap when you were up to bat? Rico?
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
Who's the guy who gave you the most problems, or all players in general?
You're talking about talking trash.
Yeah, talking trash, trying to distract you. Who was the guy?
Thurman Munson. He was
Really?
good at it.
Was
he
he?
was good at it. Oh yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
What kind of? Is there anything?
What would he
that
say?
said
Yeah.
that you could say.
Oh,
on-
your
on the
family.
air?
Hey, you're the family. Or he says, hey, gee, when the fans out in left field, do you hear any of that stuff? What they're talking about? As soon as you start saying, oh, no, not really.
And then you start listening.
Yeah, and I'm from New York, so they knew I was from New York. And said, you got any friends here, family? I said, no, not the strike one. What? Yeah, Munson was he was good at it, but there were 1 or 2 other guys. Duke Sims, who was with Cleveland, he was another guy who would do something similar.
Would
But
anybody
yeah,
ever get nasty? Would they get nasty?
No,
with you, or-
no,
Okay.
that would piss you off, and you'd
Yeah.
get up there and you'd really want to.
Right.
Well, wait a
Right.
second. When you got into the jam with the Yankees in '67, who was behind the plate? Was it Ellie Howard? No. He was playing for you guys by then. Who was behind the plate for the Joe Pepitone?
Yeah. I'm thinking Jake Gibbs. I think Jake Gibbs.
Jake Gibbs.
Yeah, I think Jake was 67. Ellie wasn't there.
Yeah, he was with you guys by
I
then.
think
correct?
so. Yeah.
All right, listen, let's get back to Heff.
Yeah.
Mike, you got a 51 Bowman and you have a 51 Bowman Maze. Tell us about those cards. I got to help bring the love up for the 51 Bowman Mantle. I have one, and I got to get the value up. Help me here.
Well, I mean, the value is already high compared to what they were selling for 5 years ago. I think you're doing pretty well, Tom.
That's a good point.
But no, the 51, I mean, it is the true rookie card. The 52, I mean, it is Mickey Mantle's first ever card. And, no one's ever going to be able to take that away. I mean, that's the deal. It's his rookie card. And it kind of irritates me sometimes when people say about the 52 Topps being his rookie card. It's his rookie Topps card. It's a matter of semantics, but
I think we
froze.
I think
I might have lost him for a second. Yeah.
That happens.
Card,
there he is.
I believe. To me, it's a lot prettier. It's a lot more of a a card that you can sit and stare at, whereas the 51 Bowman is just.
It's there.
So you don't push a particular card on consignment, right? From collectors, that's what these cards are, or are they from
they're from consigners, any collector.
Consigners, yeah. That's what I'm saying. So you wouldn't. What if they asked you, say, I got a Garrett card. Could you push this card a little more to get more out of it? Or do you just let the people do?
Fair question. Really good question, Rico. And guys do that. And you know what? I have to believe in the product that we're selling. So if people ask me my opinion, whether this is a good investment, and they do all the time, whether this is a nice example, I always try to be honest with them. I don't downgrade the material in any way. But, if it's something that I really, really think, like, to me, like that Walter Johnson baseball, we have the highest graded Walter Johnson baseball. It's graded an overall 8. It's the highest graded. It's probably the nicest one on the planet. And I love that thing so much. So just out of my pure collecting love for it, I'm sort of pushing it. That's not to say I'm not pushing other things. Everything in the catalog, everything in the auction is special. It's in there for a reason. And but guys do come, Rico, and they say, "Could you push my piece?" Like, listen, I'm not going to treat you with anything more so than anybody else.
Yeah, of course.
People ask me, I'm going to give them my opinion, but I'm not going to go over and above and just call everybody on my client.
Tom. So forget it.
No, that's what I was going to say. So here's my question. So after this auction, when is your next auction? And by the way, did you know that I have a first edition signed copy of Pitching in the Pinch signed by Christy Mathewson? I would just love to give that to you at some point.
Yeah,
this sounds like a push, Tom.
Yeah, right.
Push. And the next auction after this one's going to be it's going to be our late summer, early fall auction.
That's good. That's a good time. That's a good time. Let's get back to the Walter Johnson baseball. Walter Johnson, to me, there's a special place in his heart for me. In my heart for him. I just think he was just a great guy. We did a lot of research on Walter Johnson with all the books that we've done. Just a good man, a good, solid human being, and just a great pitcher. Your thoughts on him? Was he the greatest of all time, in your opinion, Heff?
I mean, in my head, I never said this publicly, but in my head, I often think of Walter Johnson as being the Babe Ruth of pitchers. I mean, same time period, but he's a name. I mean, I guess you could have an argument about Mathewson, Johnson, but Cy Young during that era. Yeah, but Cy Young, he won the most games, but he also lost the most games.
Right.
But Walter Johnson was just, Walter Johnson was an incredible pitcher. And
Rico,
I don't think he doesn't get enough love.
I don't think he does either. Rico, you being a very good hitter, I don't know if you've ever seen slow motion film of Walter Johnson, but I can tell you right now, Walter Johnson could pitch today, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm not. He didn't throw a 100 mile an hour fastball. He may have thrown in the mid 90s, I would think. Probably. But he used to throw 3/4. He used to come across his body 3/4, and I think that was his success, Heff, because it was such so hard to pick up the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, plus if he did that, his ball probably had sunk. Was a sinker too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Coming across and going down. Oh, it had to be. Yeah. Wow. That's
I mean,
really tough. 95 miles an hour.
He almost threw it like his arm was almost like an elastic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he would
It was so long.
right,
You know?
and he would come
was so long.
3/4, never came
Yeah.
over the top. It was very difficult
Well,
guy to hit.
I know. I almost pinch hit against him.
Oh, hold on. Let's talk about, and then I want Rico to tell you the story. Let's talk about the game used Ruth bat.
The
Game used Ruth bat.
The Ruth bat is an incredible piece. And again, just like the Walter Johnson ball, this is the first time that those items, the Ruth bat and the Walter Johnson ball, have ever seen the light of day. The first time they've ever been sold. They were in families.
Wow.
They were never on the collector's market. The Ruth bat's incredible. The Ruth bat dates from the late 20s, possibly 1928. It is, I think it's 40 ounces, which is a war club. He was still using in that period a pretty heavy bat. He went to a lighter bat in the 30s when he started to get older, but that's Rico can attest.
It's a log.
That is a log.
That had to be hard to get around. But,
you have to be
and it's signed. So it's graded a 9. I would have graded it higher. I always say that, but it looks like a 10 to me. So the Ruth bat, it's a beautiful game used bat, and then to top it all off, it's signed by Ruth. So it doesn't get any better.
What's the estimated price on something like that, Mike? If you had to venture a guess.
I was $500,000 or more.
It's got to be. It's got to be, right?
And I'm conservative. I try to be conservative.
You know what's great? I was just thinking of you talking about Ruth and Gehrig and them. It's great to see that they have some video or film on.
Oh God, Rico, that's like gold. It's
Isn't
like
it
gold.
something? I mean, people say, "Well, who was Ruth?" The younger people, who is Ruth? If they ever get a chance to see some of the video.
And you know what they've done now, Rico? They've enhanced, because of technology, they've enhanced a lot of the film clips that you see. I just watched one a couple of weeks ago with sound, and it looked like I was watching it on Netflix. It was Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig taking batting practice. It was just great to watch
stuff.
that. And by the way, Rico has played batted against a few great players. Rico, why don't you tell Heff about your experience with Satchel Paige?
Satchel Paige, in what year? 65. With Kansas City. Went to Oakland, and the owner, he was a little
Charlie Finley,
of course.
Yeah,
Charlie O and his donkey there with that horse was worth more than the team. Not horse, with the donkey, whatever the hell it was. But anyway, so he comes up with the idea. He brings Satchel Paige in, and he puts him in the bullpen, outside the bullpen, in a rocking chair. So when we
photos,
first game, he's rocking, and they announcing, hey, everybody cheers and stuff like that. And so the announcer comes out that he's going to pitch.
What are you guys saying when all this is going on?
I was saying, we were like amazed to just haven't seen him at the ballpark. And here he comes. The next day he's loosening up, and guys were saying, don't hit it back to the mound because, he doesn't have the
reflexes.
He doesn't have reflexes. Might kill him. Oh, yeah.
But hold on. Preface this by saying the season's over for both teams, pretty much.
Oh,
right?
yeah. We both stunk. Yeah.
You both stunk. Okay.
Yeah. Kansas City, he just started signing all those great players. But so Joe Foy, somebody got up, and when he came back, he struck out. When he came back, he said, "What did you?" He says, "You should see his sinker. He's got a sinker about 92 miles an hour. He was probably 80 years old or something." And I said, "No kidding, my goodness." And he pitched 3 innings, gave up 1 hit to Yaz. Yaz hit a double off into left center, and he struck out guy, ground ball. He was amazing. He had that old, how they used to throw and all that. And you couldn't see him. That was so I can imagine when he was younger.
I would say he was probably pushing 60 at that time.
Easy.
Had to be,
right? Oh yeah.
he came up in the 30s, early. Yeah, he's playing in the 30s. But did you get to bat against him, Rico?
No. I said no. I struck out against a lot of really good.
No, but Rico, that just happened to be you didn't play that game.
No, right? Yeah, I don't know.
You were
People in. So I was a rookie, basically, and but it was what was
just great to see him.
Incredible. Oh, geez, you should see him. I mean, he was. He had that big, long, similar to you were talking about.
Johnson.
What's his name? Yeah.
Johnson. Johnson. Page's arms were so long.
Jeez. Yeah. So it was a thrill,
We are chatting with Mike Heffner from Lelands. Mike, you've got a zillion signed baseballs. Can you tell us about some of them besides the Walter Johnson?
We have Walter Johnson. We have a beautiful Babe Ruth. It's just a stunning single signed baseball. Smack dab on the sweet spot. I forget. I think it's graded at signature's at 9. No, wait, it's right here actually in my calendar. Yeah, signature's graded a 9, PSA 9. We have some other really nice balls. We have a Casey Stengel ball. We have some really nice championship team signed balls. Just about everything. I got the catalog right here. We have a Ruth Gehrig signed ball. Just baseballs galore. There's a lot of them in there.
What's the best way to preserve these baseballs? Is it that thing that they put them in? What do you call it? That plastic cube.
You really have to be careful with the cubes because some of them, the ball will be loose and it'll bounce around a little bit. If you have a cube, you want to make sure it's a pretty snug cube. Now, if you really want to be safe, you put some acid-free tissue paper in there with the baseball, but it's got to be acid-free. You got to keep the baseball out of the light. I've seen so many collections where their signed baseballs were ruined, literally ruined, faded to obscurity by the light. So that's really important. Also, the humidity, the leather, certain baseballs from certain eras. For instance, the early 80s baseballs, the official major league and national league baseballs tended to tone more than the early 1970s baseballs because of the leather that they were using. So you have to be really careful. Humidity will make the ball tone to a brownish. It'll get spots. Baseballs are a tricky thing to preserve. So keep them out of the light, out of high humidity.
It's good for the collector.
I want to touch upon one of the most incredible collections I've ever seen, and that's yours. Ellen and I had the honor and pleasure of you inviting us into your house when we were when we were putting together the Diamondbacks collection. And I was just blown away by your collection. I mean, that was Museum Hall of Fame quality that you had in there. And I'm not just talking, Rico, 3 or 4 bats. I'm talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of items. But there were 2 things that sticked out besides the sports stuff, which I want to ask you about. Number one, your guitar collection. You have an amazing electric guitar collection. Can you share who some of those guitars belong to?
Well, the guitar collection, I always wanted to be, I think this is part of collecting. I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player when I was a kid. I also wanted to be a rock star when I was a teenager. So, and then I wanted to become a professional wrestler.
That was the other
none
thing.
of those things happened. So I lived vicariously, and I think a lot of collectors do this, through the memorabilia. The guitars are not a major portion of my collection, but I have a few. And my favorite is one of Eddie Van Halen's Kramer guitars from the red, black, and white ones that he handmade at Kramer from the circa 1984, right in that era. But, I still want to become a rock star. And believe it or not, the guitar that I play, I cannot play worth a crap. Okay, my fiance, the new baby, they try every time I get down in the basement and play that guitar. Okay, so, but I have a Steve Howe guitar from Yes, the guitar is from Yes, that I actually play because it sounds really good. It even makes my playing sound halfway.
And we have about a minute left for this segment. And Rico, the other thing he has, and I donned one of the capes. I don't know if Heffner even knows this. I put on he's got a wardrobe of WWE capes from the greatest wrestlers in the world.
Really? Wow.
How many do you have?
Fabulous.
Oh, I don't know, Tom. It's gotten out of control, and I really appreciate the kind comments. It takes someone like yourself to really make me appreciate my collection. I'm so blessed to have what I have. But I have wrestling outfits, including trunks, Rico, trunks.
Trunks too. Wow.
I have just hundreds and hundreds of ring worn items, and that I watched WrestleMania over the weekend. You asked me what my favorite sport is. It's wrestling.
Wrestling.
Listen, nobody was a bigger wrestling fan than me when I was a kid, and I know. Well, you probably know the names like Spiros Arion,
Bruno,
Bruno
Sammartino,
Rico. One of the pictures,
Gorgeous George.
One of the pictures I have hanging in my office is me donning a Randy Savage hat that Heff had. It's a cowboy hat. A Randy Savage cowboy hat that is now I proudly hang in my office that Ellen took of me. That's all I'm saying.
You think they would sell, not yours, but you think they would do well in an auction?
God. It's been picking up so much steam, Rico. Like it's really picking up. Like a Randy Macho Man Savage, a jacket, I think sold over at my good friend's Heritage, their auction house, not that long ago for like $15,000.
That's crazy.
The robes now will sell. You got a good robe, you got a good Savage robe, or a robe, something that Ultimate Warrior wore in the ring. You're talking $20,000-$30,000. You're talking as much as a George Brett jersey now. All
right, listen, we're going to take a quick break. Mike
Heffner
is in the house. When we come back, hopefully Brian Drent's going to join us also. Hang in there. We will be right back.
Owned and operated online auction, specializing in autographed memorabilia, sports cards, coins, art, and collectibles. Since their founding in 2010, they've grown to 2 facilities in Phoenix, Arizona, totaling over 60,000 square feet. Jared Cavalier and an incredible staff of over 150 team members serve a very large customer base and enjoy every minute of it. By working with leading authentication companies, Pristine ensures all items are 100% authentic. In addition, third-party authenticators regularly travel to Pristine Auction to provide authentication services on site. Pristine Auction strives to operate its business in a way that's honoring to God, their families, and their customers. With a strong focus on speed, quality, and premier customer service, their mission is to be the leading online auction for every level of collector and fan. Pristine also works for Hope Sports and Identity Hoops International, traveling to Mexico to build houses for the less fortunate. Pristine Auction offers several online auction formats with thousands of auctions ending each day. For more information, go to pristineauction.com. That's Pristine Auction, the best in the business.
If you're a discerning collector interested in owning the most important pieces in the hobby, look no further than Leland's Auctions. The original sports auction and appraisal house, Leland's was established in 1985 by legendary Pioneer founder Joshua Leland Evans. And today, President Mike Heffner carries on the tradition. From the Tom Brady card and memorabilia collection to the famed Boston Garden auction to high-end card auctions from every major sport, Leland's has always maintained the highest standards. Go to Lelands.com and get your bid in. That's Leland's, the hobby's leading sports auction house for 4 decades.
It's often been said that championships are won on the practice field, and world records come only to those willing to work harder than everybody else. Heritage Auctions is the world's largest collectibles auctioneer because we believe that becoming the best is only an invitation to the challenge of remaining the best. This requires the skills of the hobby's top experts, capable of identifying and maximizing value for our consigners. It requires the most visited website in the industry, courting a global audience of collectors over 1.5 million strong. It requires a dedicated press department that expands our global reach far beyond the entrenched hobby marketplace. It's hard work, but a simple premise. Present the finest collectibles to the largest population of potential buyers, and world records will come. We invite all listeners to put the unmatched power of Heritage Auctions to work for you. Auction evaluations are always free, and our commission-based fee structure ensures that our interests are always aligned. The highest possible price for your collectibles. There will always be new world records to chase, so let's chase them together. Visit our website at ha.com and request your no-obligation review today.
Hi, this is Dan from Memory Lane Auctions, here to remind you that the renowned Memory Lane Collectibles Company has served as a beacon of light to the collecting community for the past several decades. Indeed, folks, it has been our utmost privilege and pleasure to provide the most enthusiastic collectors with an abundance of the finest sports cards and memorabilia for America's most coveted sports personalities via our world-class auctions. Whether you choose either a private sale transaction or the auction route, Memory Lane cordially invites you to reach out to us to maximize the value of your prized possessions. Also, it is not just sales that we pride ourselves on being the best of the rest, because if you are seeking a particular keepsake for your esteemed gathering, we will be relentless in our quest to find that special piece to fulfill your collecting dreams. So no time to wait. Reach out to us today for the purposes of capitalizing on our unparalleled marketing capabilities. Simply pick up the phone and dial 877-606-5263. That's 877-606-LANE, or find us on the World Wide Web at www.memorylaneinc.com. Now is the time for your valued consignment to ultimately become another one of Memory Lane's record-setting prices.
They are prized possessions, and you need a place to store them that is safe and secure. The eBay Vault is exactly that. An insured, climate-controlled facility with state-of-the-art security that guards your valuable collection around the clock. Your Vault account is protected by two-step verification and easily accessible through eBay Collection. And everything stored in the eBay Vault is backed by Authenticity Guarantee. Buying and selling is a seamless experience. When you buy an eligible card on eBay, it can be sent directly to the eBay Vault at checkout. Or, if it's already in the eBay Vault, you can just keep it there. And selling from the eBay Vault is just as easy. Every card in the vault has been expertly inspected, detailed, and photographed, so you can quickly sell it with a pre-populated listing. And if your buyer chooses to withdraw their card from the eBay Vault, we handle packing, shipping, and insurance. And same goes for you. If you want that rare rookie card in your hands, you can have it shipped to you at any time. Collect like a pro with the eBay Vault.
The Vault is climate controlled, insured, and protected with 24-hour security. Soon, you'll be able to send cards already in your collection directly to the eBay Vault. They will take a high-quality photo of the front and back of the card and document all the details for your viewing pleasure and to make the listing to sell process seamless. For more info, go to eBay, connecting buyers and sellers globally.
Hey, Rick, before we bring Brian in, why don't you tell us about our good friend Tom Ruggi and his wonderful company, Destiny Wealth Management.
Yeah, he's a good friend. Tom Ruggi,
Tom's a good guy.
And the staff at Destiny Wealth Management. Now, listen to this, very, very important. If you're a card or memorabilia collector, and why wouldn't you be? You wouldn't be listening to the show, right? Or watching. Have you ever thought about how to manage your collection long-term? Well, I certainly have. I look at my personal collection, and through the advice and expertise of Tom Ruggi, I've learned that you need a professional to help categorize, evaluate, and eventually put a liquidation plan together with dealers or auctioneers or auctioneers if you or your family decides to sell your collection. Most importantly, you need to be aware of the tax ramifications when you liquidate. Although Zap, you know who Zap is, Tom Zappala and JM have begged me. They begged me, folks, you wouldn't believe it, to include them when it comes to time to depart with my 40th home run ball. Yeah, like they'll get it. Or my 67 World Series glove. I'm going to Tom Ruggi and the Wealth Management Group. Oh, boy, it's starting. And don't forget, Ruggi Wealth Management will also handle all of your investment needs. That's Ruggi Wealth Management, the go-to company to manage your collectible decisions. See, I'm slurring.
He's a good guy. All right, let's bring in our other good friend, Brian Drent from Mile High Card Company. How are you, Brian?
Hello, Brian.
I'm great, guys. How are you?
Good, good. Everything is well. You know, I think you know Mr. Heffner.
Hey, Heffner. Know each other well. Hi, Brian.
Good to talk with you. Look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
That's right.
Yes,
That's
at the Strongsville show.
Hey, listen, real quickly, Brian, you know, the headline was, man, I'll tell you, PSA set registry, 1968 top sets, 572 PSA 10s in this set. Tell us about it, man.
Isn't that crazy?
It's nuts.
Yeah, no, we've sold a lot of great sets in the past and set registry sets, but to sell a set where there's 598 cards and 572 of them are PSA 10s and the remaining cards are only PSA 9s, that's pretty special. Every star card is a PSA 10, including the Mantle, including Mays and Clemente, except for Ryan, which there's only one 10 known to exist. Ryan, Tom Seaver, and of all people, Tony Perez. Every other star card is a 10.
Brian, is the how are you going to sell them? In lots, individually?
We're going to sell them in a way that we kind of fashioned, and I think we've become known for. We're going to sell it as a complete set, and then also as singles. And our website keeps track of the cumulative high bids for the singles versus the set price, letting each one know who's in the lead, whether it's the complete set and or the cumulative singles. And it'll sell to the highest aggregate bidder.
Rick?
Nice. No, I just want to learn more about what that's available.
I mean, that's just an amazing. Listen, I want to ask both of you guys a question. I'm going to ask Heff first, and then Brian. Heff, is the modern market beginning to soften, in your opinion?
I think it is. I mean, I think like the set that Brian has is a much better investment for the future. Speaking of that set, I was thinking in my head, like, if that set I mean, I understand the business, but if that set gets broken up, you'll never, ever, ever be able to put together another set like that. That's so cool. But back to the modern stuff, like the modern stuff is, I think it's at a level now where it probably should have been. There was a lot of hype, and that hype just took it to a level of, in some cards 2-3 times what they should have been at. Now they settled down, and I think there's still just as many people collecting them. I just think that the values have gone down. The crazy auction prices aren't happening every day like they were 2 years ago.
Brian?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with Heff more. I think the modern material definitely has collectability. It has a collector base. There's definitely people interested in it. It's just that the prices have come down, probably come back to where they probably ultimately should have been. And, going forward, I think the market will right itself and then and correct itself and then prosper from there. But, sometimes you have to go down to go up.
So the collectors, that's an advantage for them right now. The prices have gone down. Their favorite players. I don't know. I don't know about Ohtani and Judge and the real top players. I don't know about them. But so I mean, if I'm a collector, I'm a collector, and I say, wow, okay, geez, this is a chance for me. These guys may be in the Hall of Fame, like what's his name?
One of those guys.
No, for the Mets, Scherzer and Oberheim.
Okay. No, that's fine. No, you're right. I mean, you're making sense.
But see, you hate the modern.
I don't hate the modern.
He hates the modern.
I do not hate the modern.
Look at him. His nose is growing.
Listen to me.
Yes,
I don't. I do not.
And I'm
hate
saying
the modern.
it's a bridge for the collectors to keep going.
Rico is like a throwback ball player, and he's a modern and ultra modern guy. I don't understand it.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about the industry. What's the advantage of the moderns? Yes. No, I'm not saying lie about them. Hey, you should do. No, both guys are very honest. Hey, they've gone down. But for the collector now, no kidding. Geez, maybe I can get this for a lot cheaper, and I'll hold on to it and see what happens.
Well, I think that's what they're both saying.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. So
I think,
it's not bad for the industry.
Yeah, it really did. I think you're right, Rico. I mean, I think it brought in new collectors, which is always the goal in our hobby, is to bring in new collectors and younger collectors. And that's what the modern stuff did. It rejuvenated the hobby.
It helped. Okay. What about signed cards, Brian?
Well, signed cards, getting back, just touching on modern a little bit, I was in Chicago recently for the show, and then Philly also. And I'll tell you, our shows, they look so much different than they used to look, and it's so much greater. You see families at shows, you see young kids, younger people. We see people of color that we used to never see at card shows. And I think that's great for all of us. Everybody starts someplace. I'm sure Heft started someplace. You start with baseball cards, you start, then you drift into memorabilia. Obviously, during this recent explosion of modern and then ultra modern cards, there's been plenty of people that have started with modern and worked their way back and start collecting, 70s and then 60s, 50s, and ultimately, potentially even earlier than that. So, but getting on to autograph cards. Autograph cards are an animal unto themselves right now. It's an interesting market because so much of it, especially at the top end, whether it's a signed 51 or 52 Mantle or Mays rookies or things like that. When I was coming up, it was frowned upon to get that kind of material signed, and now, it's one of the hottest segments of the market.
Interesting. We are chatting with Brian Drent from Mile High and Mike Heffner from Lelands. Both of you guys, I think, Brian, I mentioned this to you a couple of weeks ago. In May, towards the end of May, and this is not too far from you, Heff, a good friend of ours, Chris Costa. Rico, you know Chris, don't you?
Yeah.
Billy Costa's son. Chris is, they're doing a card show at Fenway Park. And he asked me, he says, something, we really, really, and he's a young kid, real good marketing guy, really wants to get some vintage, a really nice vintage presence in there. And the card show is going to be held on the concourse of Fenway Park with the John Henry's blessing and all that. So something you guys may want to, follow up on.
Well, that'll pack. The concourse is a big,
beautiful,
long,
beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, listen, we're just about out of time. Brian, thank you so much for coming on.
Guys.
Brian came on at the last minute, which was actually pretty comical. And obviously, Heff, you too. Thanks so much for coming on board.
It was great talking to you.
Yeah, Rico, look forward to seeing you the week after next.
No, next week.
But I'm saying in the studio.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we'll be home.
We're actually going to sit next to each other.
That's right.
Bring food, money,
wear some cologne, will you?
And cigars. Food, money, and cigars. Okay. With that being said, everybody, thank you so much for your
thanks
support.
a lot.
Thank you, guys.
Happy collecting.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.